Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. Today is September 3rd, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings to talk about, I guess, a variety of topics, but based around our nonprofit organization and the grant that we've received. So there's three mandates, three things that we're expected to do through the grant, one of which is to help improve financial literacy. This is a big deal because a lot of people, they don't know what you and I know. There's a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, and such. They want money, they need money, but in many cases, they're not properly prepared to get approved. And so they're missing some basic foundational information that you may have learned in college, maybe you've learned as an adult. I know I used to work at a public high school and we started teaching financial literacy and helping kids develop business plans starting their freshman year in high school. So you and I are kind of the haves, and unfortunately, there's a lot of have-nots. And so going out and educating is absolutely crucial to what we do. Secondly, we give away free shelf corps. And so that sounds kind of weird. Like, well, why would we do that as a 501c3 nonprofit? Well, if we're trying to solve a problem, which is to increase access to capital for small businesses, they need to know what they need to know, but there's more than just knowledge. We actually need a structure that's going to be suitable for a capital raise. And so rather than looking at clients' current businesses and trying to tweak it and fix it and uncover what may be wrong, we just found out it's much easier to give them a new shelf corp. Now they can keep their other business or businesses. We can raise the money through the shelf corp, and then if they want to transfer it to their other business or businesses, that's fine. But from a sanity perspective, from an effectiveness, from an efficiency perspective, we found it's better just to give them a new shelf corp. Now, there is a processing fee, but that processing fee is determined by our distribution partners. So we have distribution partners across the country, plus or minus 1,000, and they're able to go out and help us educate. And then they offer the shelf corps, they can add a processing fee, and they're paid from that, of course. And the end goal is to put money into the pockets, into the bank accounts, into the hands of small business owners. And that allows them to start their business, grow their business, reach their potential, allows them to maybe buy existing businesses, buy real estate, hire employees, contribute to the tax base. So the end goal, frankly, is number three. And that's really what the marketplace wants. To be honest with you, most people really don't give a shit about financial literacy. And most people find the whole shelf corp just a distraction. It's just like, get me the money, get me the money. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. You can't just demand or want or need money. You have to qualify for it. So, part of our financial literacy are our daily meetings like today. And you're always welcome to come back a second or third time. You're welcome to bring guests. And if you're a referral partner, this is a great way for you to have kind of a hands-off approach at educating your prospects so they can move forward in the process. And they know you get paid. It's okay. Businesses get paid for solving other people's problems. So I don't think you have to steer away from inviting your prospects to our morning Zooms because you get paid, because if you didn't get paid, you wouldn't be able to help them. So our agenda each day is to first of all make sure everyone's familiar with some of the grant resources that's on our website. So in the background here, we have 509 Pacific. Hopefully my screen is shared. There's really three sections to the website. And if you follow that structure, then it's really easy to navigate because it's just a one-page website. First is the Quick Cash. The Quick Cash is a unique instrument, and it's not our goal to talk too deep about it today, but there is a training about it and then the packet. More relevant to our discussions on a morning basis is accessing the grant, getting that free shelf corp, and then moving forward to funding. So that's the middle section. So this is the top, this is the bottom, here's the middle. So with it, there's training about how it works. There's training about ABL as compared to SBA lending. We can help them with either, but there's specifically the grant packet, third link from the bottom. However, if someone is working with a reseller, a distribution partner, those prospects would go back to their reseller to enroll, not on our website. And then at the bottom, as I referenced, for those folks that want to be distribution partners to get paid to help teach financial literacy and give away shelf corps and help raise capital, that's where the information's available here. There's 5 trainings that we really ask anyone that's interested in collaborating to watch. One on money repair. That may sound funny. A lot of people talk about credit repair, credit repair. Well, the truth is a lot more people need money repair than credit repair. So we talk about money repair. We give an overview of the Express Shelf Corp. We give an overview of the branch office. We have a training for branch offices. And then this asset-based lending versus SBA loans is actually the same as the one that's in the middle section. So once someone has watched those 5, they can come down and fill out this form and let us know. There's actually 2 different ways to work together. The branch office, and the branch office historically has had a license fee. It's not a franchise, but historically it's had a license fee, but they have a promotion in September to waive that $10,000 license fee. So it becomes free. And then alternatively, we have the reseller. The reseller doesn't involve having a branch office. There's no cost to be a reseller, not even a contract. You just fill this out, submit it, and we'll get you the packet, and you'll be open for business today. In general, resellers are normally our dabblers, and normally the branch offices are the more committed, more involved, but you could do whichever you want. There are production expectations as a branch office, whereas a reseller, it's just if you want to be active and get paid, do so. Resellers can be paid on the front end based upon the processing fee, which I mentioned a moment ago, and then they're paid on the back end of the capital raise, 5%. 5% may not sound like much. We have guaranteed funding, so any client or participant that goes to the program, they're guaranteed funding. Most of our clients now are going after what we call ABL loans, which again, there's further education. We'll talk about it a bit today. ABL start at 1 million. Now, they could be a line of credit so people could pull from it if they need versus a term loan. But my point in regard to this section here is that if you referred in someone as a reseller and you made 5% off of their million capital raise, it's not too bad. I mean, it's 50,000 for referring one person. Many of our resellers average a deal a day. Some, average means half do more, half do less. But on average, the average reseller is just doing this part-time as a side gig, doing one a day. So you look at some of the names, we have 640 of you on this morning. You have some of you that are doing much, much more than one a day. Some of you are averaging 3 or 4 a day. Others, frankly, of you are doing nothing. But regardless, it's a way to help people get paid. So going back to our agenda, I wanted to make sure that you knew about those resources on 509pacific.org that you can access at your convenience. There are some key concepts that we reiterate on a daily basis. And again, I know it's common sense to each of you, but not everyone knows what you and I know. And if you're bringing guests or we have new attendees, we want to make sure everyone has an equal chance for success. Our proposition is pretty interesting. And if you're a reseller, this is something that you may want to mirror, you may want to replicate. Because if you think about what we're offering the grant participant, we're saying, hey, if you've got $500, technically $499.99, but we'll round off. If you've got 500, we can plug you into our proven system, has no risk, funding's guaranteed. We'll get you a shelf corp. We'll get you your initial round of funding. We'll get you offers in about 7 days. You'll get your first funding in about 10 days from the date of enrollment. The program is designed to support itself, so you shouldn't have to have any other out-of-pocket expense as long as you're a typical client. doing the typical things. And the end result is we can get you $1 million plus in funding. That's a pretty damn good proposition because we're doing it legally, we're doing it ethically, everything is writing, there's no smoke and mirrors. So, with that, those of you that are marking up the shelf court processing fee, you may have to substitute in a different number. Maybe you're charging $9.99. So that alters your proposition slightly. If they come to our website, our processing fee is just a $4.99. But if you think about that, that's a great proposition. And we're able to do that not because it's smoke and mirrors, but we leverage the shelf corps that we provide. And then we have some advanced funding strategies like ABL. Also, we encourage you, if you're a prospective participant, or encourage you to educate or bring up this topic with your prospects, if you're a reseller, is ask your client the cost of doing nothing. Because we know the cost of using our program should be less than $500 out of pocket, unless you're marketing it up. So we have option A, spend 500, get a shelf court, get funding offers in 7 days, get first round of funding in your bank account in 10 days, allow us without any additional out-of-pocket expense to do the transfer, get you qualified for ABL. And the design is to literally get these folks $1 million in about 30 days. So that's option one. Option two is, I don't know, ask them, what better way do they have to get from where they're at to where they want to be in the next 30 days for less than $500? I don't think they have a next best option, but you can ask them. Throughout our brief topic today, we'll allow for Q&A, so that is like a chat box, a Zoom. So key concepts for business funding, because we've covered number one, we've gone through the website enough. Let's go through some key concepts. Now, if you are one of our distribution partners and you're out helping improve financial literacy, to no surprise, these are the topics that you'd want to educate on. Now, you could do blurbs, you could do podcasts, you could do live presentations. It's really up to you. That's where you come into play of how you want to go out and educate the marketplace. But I think these key concepts are not only crucial for you to know if you're a reseller or a branch office, for you to educate others on. First is a remarkably a simple concept. If you want business funding, you need to have a fundable business. And again, that goes right to the core. A lot of people don't think that way. I've got a gentleman, he's living out of his car. Now, he has a Porsche, which is a nice car. I have a Porsche too, but he lives in his Porsche. He's homeless. He is in Idaho. Nice guy. But he can't assimilate this point here. Where's my funding? Where's my funding? And I'll leave his name out of it. He's a great guy, and we seemingly work with him on a daily basis. But there is no funding just by wanting money. We need to have a fundable business, which we'll talk more about. And because he lives in his car and he's destitute, he's not able to follow the process. And so that's where you'll run into the biggest challenge. People that want something that's too good to be true, right? I just want my money. Well, do you have a fundable business? No, or they often don't know what that means. So let's continue on and make sure we all know what it means to have a fundable business. Well, unfortunately, there's not one definition of what a fundable business is, because there's many different loans and lenders, and many of them have different loan programs, and each have their own underwriting criteria. So there's not one answer to what it takes to have a fundable business, other than the fact that we need to meet the underwriting criteria of at least one lender's loan program, right? If we met more than one, we'd have more options. But there's not just one set of criteria. The criteria for underwriting for business financing can be summarized as the 3 C's: credit, collateral, capacity. So credit is, have we paid our bills on time in the past? So we have a proven track record. Credit can be at the business level and or personal level. Collateral would be the assets that we have to pledge to the lender, that in case we default, that they can mitigate the risk. Capacity means the same as cash flow. Do we have enough money to be able to pay back the loan that we want? And this could be from historical cash flow, bank deposits. Also, we can address this through future projections in many cases. Therefore, it's crucial that we find the right type of funding for each client, for each grant participant, based upon them, not based upon what you want, not based upon what we want, based upon them. What are their wants? What are their needs? But also, what are their mitigating circumstances? So take the gentleman living out of his Porsche in Idaho. He doesn't have a commercial address. We've offered him a commercial address. Actually, we provide a commercial address for free to everyone with the Shelf Corp package. And that's actually mentioned right here, number 4. We provide a commercial address to everyone. But in his case, and all we ask clients to do is just pay for the mail forwarding. Mail comes in, we sort it, we separate it. Usually on Wednesdays, we forward the mail. So we just say, cover our cost of forwarding your mail. We'll provide you the address for free. Well, he's destitute. I mean, he didn't have money for food, let alone housing, let alone to have his mail forwarded. So you can see that even though the formula is well set, there's some people that are not able to comply because they're completely insolvent. And we have ways to help them as well. But it is important that we find the right type of funding based upon the individual circumstances. And so, what does that mean? We can look at their credit separately, we can look at their collateral separately, we can look at their business's capacity and determine, do they have at least one of the 3 C's? Because if they have at least one of the 3 C's, then there's funding options available. If they have all 3 of the C's, we have the most options. But if we have 0 of the 3 C's, we're in trouble. We're going to have to work with them to build at least one of the 3. Now, some of you ask about, how do I pre-qualify prospects? Well, we don't really want you to, because our grant is based upon the concept we take people where they are, and with love and care and professional assistance, we get them from where they're at to where they need to be. So this isn't where you need to go vet people out. So do they have to have good credit? No, we have some sources that don't care about credit at all, or we can help them with their credit. Do they have to have a lot of collateral? No, there's some sources of capital that don't require any collateral, or we can provide collateral. Oh, do I need to screen on their cash flow? No, because we have some sources of capital that don't care about capacity / cash flow, or we can help them with that. So we're here, and what makes our model unique, and frankly, why we were able to get the grant, is that we help with all 3 C's, and that's very rare. So what we do, what you and I do, we're technical advisors. It's an occupational category recognized in the lending world and by the SBA. So we're the consultants, if you want, that helps people become fundable legally and ethically and build the documentation needed. Now, in terms of the types of funding, there's many different types of funding, but let's try to get our arms around it so it's a little bit more tangible and less abstract. There's 2 primary categories of larger amounts of funding that we typically help clients with. Many other options, but the main 2 categories would be SBA loans. Mark, Chuck, and I, the 3 of us founded the nonprofit. We all came from the SBA, so we understand that model pretty well. And then what has become the most popular option is ABL. So no, we can't do both on the same capital raise. It'd be one or the other. But ABL actually has a number of benefits, a number of differences, which I'd like to cover with you now. So in terms of underwriting, if we're going to apply for an SBA loan, we know the SBA is not the lender, they're the guarantor. Therefore, it's actually a bit more complicated than what many people realize. We're going to have to get approval at the lender level plus the SBA level. So you could almost argue that there's 2 rounds of underwriting, which isn't a problem, but we just need to be aware of that. And in general, SBA and traditional business loans are wanting the applicant to meet all 3 C's, not one of them, but all 3. So again, is that a problem? No. Is that unreasonable? No. But it's a higher hurdle to jump. In contrast, we have revenue-based financing and asset-based financing that's based on just one C. So asset-based financing is based on collateral, revenue-based financing is based on capacity. And again, you might say, well, that's not going to work. My prospect doesn't have collateral, or my prospect doesn't have capacity. Well, you're missing the point. We're technical advisors. We help them legally and ethically have the collateral, or we can help them we can help them legally and ethically have the capacity. So while they do need to meet the underwriting criteria, no, they don't have to meet it when they come to us. Frankly, if someone had all of this in place, they don't need you and I. Owner contribution, and we've had people just piss ass mad at us because the way that the owner contribution works, and it's not our decision. We're just the messenger. But I can tell you, I've had lots of bullets shot my way because of the truth. And the truth is, if we want an SBA or a normal business loan, they normally want the applicant to have at least 10% owner contribution, sometimes more, sometimes 10, 20%, sometimes as much as 30%. So if you wanted to borrow $1 million, that applicant would need to have liquidity of 100, 200 to 300,000. Well, I'm sorry if anyone doesn't like that, but I didn't write the rules. I'm just educating on how the rules are. So that keeps a lot of people from proceeding with SBA loans because they don't have that liquidity. What's great though, and this is what John Stockton and I are out preaching in Wisconsin, is there's alternatives. What if we used an ABL instead of an SBA? Now we don't have to have any owner contribution. So we go from 10, 20, 30% to 0%. You don't think that would allow us to help more people with John in Wisconsin or the rest of you in your markets? Another important difference is the SBA has specific restrictions on what the funding can be used for. One of the best examples would be real estate. If you wanted to get commercial real estate, you can only use SBA, it's called 504 loans, if you're going to own or occupy, in other words, you yourself, your business, occupy 51% or more of the square footage. So if you bought a big building and you only needed a small portion, you wanted to lease the rest out, it's not qualified. That's just one of many restrictions. The point is, with both revenue-based financing and asset-based financing, there's typically no restriction on funds. So the clients can use the borrowers / clients can use the funds for whatever purpose they wish. Another important difference, second to the last, between SBA and ABL are loan sizes. SBA loans start with little micro loans. We've seen people get $5,000 to $10,000 business loans, and so that's okay. But of course, that doesn't go too far. And then there's 7A, which is working capital. There's 504, like we mentioned a moment ago. It's more real estate and equipment, hard assets. There's express loans. There's a variety of different types of SBA loans. But as you would expect, the larger the loan, the stricter the underwriting, because the more exposure that the lender has. And again, they're looking at all three C's. So it's more and more difficult to get a bigger and bigger SBA loan. Plus, you have to have that contribution. In contrast, ABL is so much different. And people that don't stop to understand how revenue-based financing and asset-based financing works, sometimes they'll come to the conclusion, oh, that's too good to be true, but it's not. And we have prior trainings on our YouTube channel that goes more deeply than we're going today. But the bottom line is ABL typically starts at $1 million, doesn't cap, it starts. I had one gentleman today, he's been texting our support line, which is here, and he wants to know what's the maximum funding. And the answer is there's technically no maximum funding. I mean, the maximum is whatever the applicant qualifies for. There is no max. And so that's just a concept he can't understand. What is the max? Well, it is true that different lenders and different lending platforms have maxes, but in general, there is no maximum. If you're Elon Musk and you want to go borrow $1 billion, I bet that deal could be put together. Now, that's not our typical deal, of course. So ABL is not really about the maximum. There's really no maximum. Same with revenue based, but it's more about minimums. ABL does start at $1 million. The bigger players that we love to work with ABL, like Chase and Bank of America, they start at 5 million. So again, you might say, well, what if a client, they like the ABL because it has many positive attributes, but they just don't need 1 million. Well, then why don't we set it up as a line of credit instead of a term loan? A line of credit, as you know, is you just pull from it as you need. So the ABL, I would argue, in many cases, is a better option for most clients. But we'll go through very objectively in a very consultative manner to help the client come to the conclusion. It's always up to them. Payback assistance is the last differentiator I wanted to cover this morning. There is no payback for SBA loans. What I mean by assistance. So what I mean by that is you borrow it, you're expected to pay it back. That's kind of the way loans normally work. Unusually, through our grant, we actually have payback assistance on the ABL, where our program is designed to actually cover the loan payments. Cover the loan payments for the first 2 to 3 years. So that's a big advantage. All right, let's take a deeper dive here as we're about to wrap up on how we can turn, we'll call it $500 into 1 million. Is it too good to be true? How does it work? Well, let's go through the 3 steps. The first thing we need to do is get the participant into a free shelf corp, because that's what we're going to build everything else on. If you and I were in construction and we were building homes, first thing we need is a piece of land. We cannot build a home normally without a piece of land. We're not going to go have a fundable business if we don't have a fundable business infrastructure, and we provide that for free through the shelf corps. So they can get that from the reseller, the branch office they're working with, or they can come to 509pacific.org and get it right here. So that's simple. So that's number one. That's where we start. Oh, my client already has a business. Don't really care. If they already have a business, they can keep it. They can do whatever they want with it. But that adds time, effort, uncertainty. Let's set that aside. Let's do the capital raise through the Shelf Corp. And then if they want to move the money from the Shelf Corp to their other business, we don't care. But we want to use the Shelf Corp because it saves a lot of time, effort, energy. So we need about 7 days. And I know we live in this world that if it doesn't happen in 7 minutes, it must be a scam. But we need right about 7 days to get the Shelf Corp deliverables to the client. And then we'll go ahead and get them an app. They'll fill that out. And normally on the 7th to the 8th day, we're getting them offers. And normally they can get that first tranche, first round of funding around day 9, 10, or 11. Could vary, but I'm just giving you averages. So that's pretty nice, right? Your pitch could be, hey, for $500, we've got a proven legal guaranteed program that will get you 1 million plus in around 30 days, and your first round of funding is going to be in less than 14 days. That's a pretty good proposition, and that's how we structure it on number 2. So the design of the program is that other than that initial processing fee that they pay you or pay us on the website, other than that, the program should financially support itself. They should not have to come up with anything else out of pocket, partially because we're going to get them their first tranche early on. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, again, individual results will vary. I'm telling you the average approach. We need to run a client through, see what they get qualified for to give them their specific numbers. So once they have got the Shelf Corp, we delivered the deliverables, provided them the deliverables, got them offers. They accepted whichever offers they want. Normally that's 40, 50, 60,000. Could be more, could be less. But now that we've got all that out of the way, now we're ready to nail down what's the larger capital raise goal. What are they going to use it for? Called the uses of funds. We need to figure out where the best source of capital is. Is it ABL? Is it SBA? Is it revenue-based financing? Is it something else? And then we need to build the loan package based upon where we're going. Then we apply, and then we get them funded. Now, the bonus here is we have the opportunity fund, and some of you are taking advantage of this. Some of you aren't. I think if you're not, it's kind of foolish, but that's your decision. The opportunity fund is designed where we're putting daily deposits into the grant participant's bank account. Not a loan, doesn't have to be repaid. All right, so with that, of course, we've talked about the cost of doing nothing. If you were to present to a prospect, if they have a problem, and the problem is they're looking for money to start or grow a business, you and I have a solution. I've in synopsis described to you how the solution works. You could give them the proposition as we've discussed, which is, hey, if you've got at least $500, if you don't, you're not ready to start a business, no offense, but if you got at least $500, we can take you through our curriculum, our program. We guarantee in writing funding, so there's no risk to you. It's designed where the average applicant would have no more out-of-pocket expense other than just that initial processing fee, which you get to determine the amount. And it's great. It's great. So the cost of doing nothing is a powerful concept if you take a moment to educate people and help them compare what you are offering, what we are offering versus their other options. I don't think they have another option that's anywhere close. Our website, 509 Pacific, the text support line, 903-347-8042. Some of you love to call the text line. It's not answered. It's not designed to be answered. If you want to call and talk to a live person, what would you do? You'd call our actual phone number, 903-352-3390. But we get inundated with calls. We get so many calls, we end up not being able to answer all of them because we just can't staff enough people to answer all the calls that are coming in. So our most efficient thing is the support line. So let's go through a few of the questions you all have, comments, and then we'll wrap it up. Charlie brings up a good point. So if the client comes in and they already are knowledgeable, they already know ABL is what they want, what do we do? It's still the same process. We still need to have a shelf corp to qualify for the ABL. It's the same process. Now, we might be able to move through a little quicker because they know exactly where they want to go, but the process is the process, regardless of SBA, ABL, revenue-based financing, what have you. All right, JR just put his initials in. I'm not sure who JR is, but welcome, JR. JR asked, are we charging them in advance to get loans? Absolutely not. And in fact, the Federal Trade Commission calls that an advanced fee loan scheme. Not technically illegal, but it's very much frowned upon by regulators. We do not charge upfront for loans. We don't. We're paid a performance fee, sometimes called a success fee, after they get funding. And that's where you get your 5% on the back end. What we're getting paid for is, you and I, us, is a processing fee to get them the shelf corp so we can go do the work. And then we're going to build the loan package, and we're paid a percentage of the capital raise, but not in advance. So no, JR, and I appreciate you bringing it up. No, so this is not an advanced fee loan scheme. They pay for the financing, accepted, approved after it's in their pocket. All right, John asked, pros and cons of raising 5 million. Should we use one shelf corp or multiple shelf corps? Well, if the client just knows they want 5 million, there's no reason that I can think of breaking it into 5 different capital raises. We could if they want, but if a client just simply wants or needs 5 million, I would say let's build everything and do it one time. That'll be quicker and easier and cheaper for the client. That's what we want, right? We want to get the client we want to solve their problem as fast as possible, as affordably as possible. Now, is it free? No, because if it were free, we wouldn't have 646 of you on here that are paid and motivated to go help people. All right, so with that being said, we've got a few more comments, but we're running long. So we'll be back tomorrow morning. You can bring your questions, comments, concerns back tomorrow, or you can, of course, text us, or you can go to our website. You're welcome to participate in Quick Cash. We have people that are enrolling in Quick Cash and getting, like we had a gentleman yesterday, he got 6 Quick Cash yesterday. So that's 120,000 that will be transferring to him today before the end of the day. So Quick Cash can be done once or multiple times. Free shelf corp to get the business funding distribution partner role. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.